I'm going to go out here and take one guess that there's one thing that unites everyone in this room. I'm going to guess that we've all taken a trip in the last year, whether that was business or vacation, or based on what Chris asked right at the beginning of this conference, something aspirational that you're looking ahead to. Travel touches all of our lives, and the ubiquity of this industry has sent it skyrocketing to be one of the fastest growing in the world today. It actually represents more than 10% of the global GDP and pulls in $8 trillion of global economic impact annually. That number, by the way, nearly doubled from 2005 to 2015 when the rest of the luxury sector was tanking. So here today, we have three experts with totally varying perspectives on the industry who can explain to us why an industry that is growing so tremendously also innovates relatively slowly. I just want to invite you guys to think about something. How different is your hotel experience or your airline experience today than it was 10 years ago? Not really, right? So I think that's going to change a bit in 2019, and these three folks have a lot to do with that. Suzanne oversees luxury brands at the world's largest hotel company. Tom is one of the most sought-after purveyor of rarefied experiences, and Gillian is like the wizard of all things travel tech out in the Bay Area. She's not the disruptor, she's the ringleader of the disruptors. So I want to thank you guys for being here. And I want to jump into a topic that I think is relevant to all three of you, despite how different your approaches to travel are, and that's personalization. Suzanne, you come from Starwood originally, now with Marriott, obviously. And data was a huge part of what made Starwood so successful. I'm curious to hear from you how Marriott is leveraging that advantage and taking it to the next level.
Gillian, yeah, coming from Starwood, I mean, that was always very important. But I think grounded in just the hospitality industry and from Marriott and Starwood, there's a couple of ways that we look at data. So first off, in the hotels, we are collecting data by the minute from our guests. And in luxury, being able to leverage the information that our guests are telling us with real-time personalization is what makes us successful. So whether it's in Ritz-Carlton or St. Regis or W, all of our associates are trained to really look for those cues that our guests are telling us are important to them. So whether they want a certain type of experience in their room, or they're asking, even a housekeeping associate can be looking, this guest loves towels. I'm going to make sure that we have a lot of beautiful, lush towels for them during their stay. Or they don't love chocolate, so let's not give them chocolate each night. So we leverage the things that our guests are telling us, as well as the cues that we have when they're in our room, to personalize their stay while they're there. And we can capture that with this combined database. We have this loyalty program which allows us to enter these things that are really important to our guests so that we can leverage them for their stays outside. And then on top of that, with digital being this very high-tech industry that we're in, so combining the high touch of the stay with the high-tech availability, we can personalize along the journey what a customer wants. So if they are searching for a business stay, we're not going to serve them an offer that would be great for family. And vice versa, if a business traveler is then taking her family on a vacation, we want to make sure that we're putting offers in front that make sense based on the kind of hotel that they typically like to stay in, a destination, and also what kind of family experiences they might want. The combination of the two of those things, I think, are what is going to be to our success, and thinking about innovating and using personalization and technology allows us to mirror what they're doing in their searches with then providing that personalized touch when they arrive at the hotel.
How do you kind of draw the distinction of a person's different travel personalities and which one applies? I think that must be especially difficult. I have a friend, I don't know if you guys have had experiences like this. I have a friend who posted she was at a Katy Perry concert, checks into a hotel the next day, and has like a signed letter from, Katy Perry to my biggest fan. It's really hard, I think, for companies to understand how to contextualize the information that they get. So is there something that you're doing along those lines?
There is. Well, it's interesting. So we have real-time command center set up in our HQ office, and also our bigger offices around the world that look for some of those things from a social media perspective. So if somebody is at one of our hotels and they're texting their friends and they're mentioning the hotel, or they're posting on Facebook or on Instagram about a special occasion or something they're doing, we're feeding that to our hotels so that they can come and personalize the stay.
Smart.
So I just gave away some secret sauce, so sorry. The magic behind the curtain, but yeah, we are using that kind of information.
Tom, your business is based largely on human interaction. You've got agents who are working with their clients, with the traveler, to figure out exactly what's going to be their bucket list trip. How does data come into the equation for you?
It's everything. I think that the human interaction is essential to our business. It's at the level of luxury travel that we're providing, it's very much about a personal relationship, but it has to be underpinned by smart data, smart interrogation of that data to help understand best what the customer wants. And what we're seeing these days is we're getting more and more access to data, and our customers are comfortable with us having that data, which allows us to kind of expedite the process in terms of efficiency, understanding what they want. And then on top of that, we then layer the human insight, attitude, what you were talking about earlier about finding these moments to impress. For us, that's always been about attitude. So humans are important, but getting the mindset right and instilling in our travel experts this need to look for moments to surprise and delight. How can we take it to the next level? So it's a special blend of smart data with human insight, and we believe that approach delivers a truly personalized approach for our customers and gets people excited about their trips.
You mentioned something to me very recently about harnessing insights from Alexa and personal assistants. Can you talk about that for a second?
Well, it's what we're looking at. I think a big thing in luxury travel is about being available to your customers at any time they want, or looking at the channels in which they're consuming content or getting inspiration. And we're looking at how technology can help improve the process. And we're playing around with some voice over internet protocol, looking at Alexa, can we be putting Black Tomato's top trips each month on Alexa, get people to ask that question, get some answers back, provide some information, help that filtering process in terms of helping them understand where they want to go, make it a little bit quicker, get a bit closer to them, be part of their worlds, and work around them. So it's early stages, and some great companies are doing it already. We're looking at the luxury space, and I think you need to accept that people are going to be using content and consuming content in this way. And we want to be present and part of that.
Super
and
smart.
we need to be on the front foot for that.
Gillian, you're coming at this from a totally different angle because your company, Hitlist, focuses on aviation and finding great airfare, which I think is an impossibility for most of us. But you have kind of figured out how to personalize airfare, and I think maybe nobody in this room has ever thought about airfare being personalized. Explain what that means and how we find it.
Well, I think actually one of the key distinctions is we don't think about people booking flights, even though that's the only thing that we actually transact in. We think about people booking trips. So you're not just looking for a flight to Paris. Are you looking for a flight to Paris for a romantic weekend away? Are you going with your family? Are you going for work? This is going to have a completely different sort of data picture in terms of what people are putting into the app. So within Hitlist, since most of you probably aren't familiar, it's an app. You can put in your trip preferences, and it can be as broad or specific as you like. You don't have to say, I'm looking for a flight to Paris December 15th through 19th. You can say, I want to go to Paris for 4 to 5 days over a weekend sometime in the spring. And we go through about 50 million fares worth of data a day, and we try and find the things that match what you're looking for. One of the things that we think about when we're looking at the entire trip is it's a factor of 4 things. So price is obviously the thing that's most easy to track, but also the value of the destination to you, because sometimes they're not looking for just a trip to Paris, they're looking for a romantic getaway, and they could be interested in going other places. And so price, location, the desirability of the location, the desirability of the timing. Do you have to go on a weekend? Could you go another time? And the social component, which is the thing that almost everyone leaves out and is such an important part of travel. 85% of trips are taken with or to visit family and friends. So understanding the context, are you traveling with someone? Are you traveling to see someone? And so we take these 4 factors and we try and balance them and understand, does a $400 flight for a long weekend in Paris appeal to Nikki what is her score for that type of flight versus Suzanne? And it could be completely different because Suzanne's best friend lives in Paris, and if she sees a $400 flight to Paris, that's enough to just say, that would be great, I would totally love to go. Whereas for Nikki, she's been to Paris a dozen times, and she's not going to be interested in that. I mean, if the price drops to $250 for a direct round trip for a weekend, maybe she'd consider it.
I'd never say no to Paris.
Anyway, you get the point. So this is what we're trying to focus on. We're trying to build a picture of what the traveler is interested in as a whole. And why that's so important is that's something that's incredibly scalable. And we believe that people still think travel is a luxury, and it doesn't need to be. When you can get to Paris round trip direct on a flight on Norwegian Air for $200, it's something that, it's less than a dinner out at a nice restaurant in New York City. And this is something that we can open up an entire new, you could say a new generation, but really a new demographic. It doesn't have to be young people, to taking trips and getting used to the idea that travel isn't a luxury. Or it doesn't have to be an expensive luxury. It's always a luxury.
Well, you've also talked a lot about how value is what's driving a lot of transactions. And value is a relative thing, but I'm curious if, especially I think you've talked about this in the context of affluent millennials, I'm curious if that demographic, which is so hot for, I think, everyone here, across disciplines, not just in travel, does that drive for value make this consumer more spontaneous? Are they traveling more often and spending the same amount over multiple trips as our previous traveler would have on one big blowout trip? Is that something that you have a sense of?
We have a really great sense of that. Obviously, we're catering to a certain demographic, and so our average age of our user is 26, 27. The average trip length that they take is 4.5 days, so it really is a short trip, more weekend getaways, and the average number of days they book out is 21, but with a standard deviation of like 16. So it really is all over the map. But what we see, what's kind of fun is to zoom in on specific age groups. And what we're seeing is it's not linear. So when younger people are often booking further out, when you hit the late 20s to early 30s, they're booking closer in. And then later on, they tend to book further out again.
Interesting.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So my take on it is probably when you are younger, you still are much more price driven, and so you are looking for those really great deals, even if they're further out. As you're hitting your late 20s, maybe before you've started a family or something, you are focused on spontaneous getaways, and you're willing to pay a little bit more and travel a little bit more last minute. And then obviously once you have your families and maybe career at a more advanced level where you have to plan the time off a little bit more.
But I think that's a really interesting template for how we think about all of our spending decisions, especially our leisure and our the spending that is discretionary in our lives. I think that's probably relevant to most categories, not just travel. So that's really fascinating insight. I think it also, the short trips touches on a point that I think is quite interesting, which is travel becoming more of a lifestyle. It's less about the one vacation a year. It's more about how travel can define you in your everyday life. And I think we're really seeing that. Chris already alluded earlier today to Equinox's jump into the travel organizing space. We're seeing Shinola come out with a hotel this year. We have SoulCycle planning vacations. All of these companies that are trying to chip away at this very valuable industry that hospitality has created. And I wonder how that is affecting your business. Suzanne, I know that you guys at Marriott are putting a lot into this with kind of encouraging people to travel more often to music festivals at the W hotels and with the Ritz-Carlton Yacht line that's coming out next year. Can you talk a little bit about how this lifestyle proposition is shaping Marriott's business in 2019?
Yes, as a brand person, I think people are very passionate about brands and they want more interaction with their brands, right? We see it through social media that people spend a lot of time following their brands and really interacting with them. And so for a hotel company, many years ago, we started in this space when we realized how important, especially in luxury, but across all of our brands, experience were. We launched a platform called Moments. So we have Marriott Moments, Marriott Rewards Moments, and SPG Moments that are soon combining. under one platform, but it gives people the ability as a loyal guest to use their points to redeem experiences. It doesn't even have to include a hotel stay. So right now, for over 1 million points, you can be, right on the field side at Super Bowl and have like a whole VIP event. So it hasn't closed yet if you wanted to get in and bid on it. But things like music artists and sporting events and just other types of cooking with a chef. So being able to cook with Michael Mina at the new JW in Turnberry, those are all things that people want access to, and because of their loyalty and their love of our brands, get access through using their points. But then we've also started to do, over the years, and even most recently, people love the Ritz-Carlton brand. They are die-hard fans of the brand. And so, as you mentioned, we have now a new brand, a brand extension, which is our Yacht Collection. So guests that would never think about taking a cruise are booking. And so 75% have said they've never indicated taking a cruise, and they've already booked their cabins for 2020, for the inaugural sale. Same thing with W Hotels. So this year we held 3, and we'll have 1 more to round it out, music festivals. So people love music. W has always been about music, and they love to come and listen to music at our hotels, and they love festivals. But if anyone's been to a festival, they're not the most desirable housing, usually, hotels around the grounds. And so you can stay at a W or be a local and come to a W and have access to these incredible artists. In between shows, you can get a spa appointment, have a great meal, drink some great champagne or wine, and really enjoy or swim in the pool and really enjoy yourself.
For everyone here who's outgrowing the Burning Man era of their lives.
W, wake up, it's called the wake up call, look for it. And the same, and so we have also St. Regis guests that are really passionate about the brand, could attend some of our incredibly beautiful events around polo. So polo is a passion of a lot of the guests that stay in our hotels, and so now we partner together with Nacho Figueres to put on these incredible polo events around the world. So it's more than just the hotel stay. There's a connection that our guests have with our brands outside of their hotel stay.
This resonates, I think, Tom, with some of the stuff that you guys are doing. You've talked a lot about partnerships with Black Tomato, and I think it's a smart way that you guys are maybe putting a twist on a business model that, I don't know, in the past seemed very focused on this bucket list, once-in-a-lifetime experience. How are partnerships helping you guys twist that into something of a lifestyle, everyday proposition?
Well, our fundamental belief is travel has always been a manifestation of your broader passions. So even if you're not choosing to travel for a specific thing, subconsciously you might be influenced by your love of art or fashion or literature. And we don't believe travel should sit in sort of a travel box. It should be connected to these broader passions. And in doing that, it creates opportunity for partnerships where you can work with like-minded brands who have a similar outlook in terms of view on the world or love of the audience, and start creating really interesting propositions that connect a travel vehicle with a brand that people are passionate about. I mean, what we're seeing now with Equinox and these other companies doing it, I really think is sort of a culmination of what's been happening for quite a long time. I mean, if I think back 5 years ago, we did a partnership with Dunhill in London. And the idea was that it was recreating a trip that the manager from the Dunhill store in Paris took in the 1930s through Europe to Japan to source a pen. And we got together with Dunhill and said, look, this is a fantastic trip.
To source a pen?
To source a pen, which is now like a Dunhill kind of classic. And we went and worked with them and said, well, this is an amazing journey. Why don't we create that trip? And you can take the whole journey or you can break it up. And that kind of amalgamation of thinking between 2 brands that were passionate about travel in the world and fashion really kind of lifted both the brands in terms of their approach. And what we're seeing with these other brands is like, these brands have such fervent advocates. People love these brands so much. So it's kind of natural that brands are going to say, well, actually, if they love us that much, we could take our proposition into the travel space. The opportunity to immerse yourself more in that brand in a fantastic place. Of course, that's exciting. So what we see is an opportunity to work with these brands and help elevate these experiences. And I think we're only going to see more. I don't think it's beyond the imagination that in years to come, you'll be shopping for your travel according to the brands you like. So you might take your trip to Europe with Patek Philippe. You might have your weekend in Paris with Chanel. You might be traveling in Sri Lanka with Tom's. I don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's not hard to connect those dots. And I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be interesting to see how some of these new propositions shake out. But the potential's vast. And as a company, we've always embraced that. We've built our company, by and large, with strong partnerships.
It's a really smart point, I think, because a company like Marriott has this embedded loyalty system that really retains the client at its core and pulls new people in. But I think a company like Black Tomato can really use the extra kind of attention from brands that have that loyal following themselves to pull into you.
Exactly, and what I'd be sort of at pains to stress is, we have great loyalty to our brand, full stop, but it's more like the opportunity, and it's actually finding customers in a certain headspace. Headspace, I'm just saying that, they're probably going to do their meditation trips, right? So it's sort of that stuff happens. It's a very natural journey. And we're working with some great brands in that. We've done some great things in the past, we're going to do more. But you've got to make sure the sum of the parts is greater than these individual things. And I think some of the risks with this, brands sticking their logo on trips, but not really delivering a branded experience. So real thought's got to go into what that is going to look like for the customer and how they're really going to deliver on the brand proposition.
Amen.
And that's where great travel knowledge, great brand knowledge needs to come together and combine.
And I'll just add to that. We see it all the time, right? Like you were talking about having like these luxury houses to almost create trips. Guests that they're looking for more. Our guests have been to Paris, hundreds of times or dozens of times. What's new? What's new in Paris? How do we combine a hotel stay with an experience, a behind the scenes at Cartier to really meet the watchmaker and to learn about how the watch that they want to purchase is available? And so they're looking for more of those enriching experiences beyond just staying in a hotel and having to figure it all out for themselves. Sure. They need these partners.
Let's go deeper.
Yeah.
Question for all of you. There's a big pain point in travel that none of you can directly resolve, which is the pain of getting there. I think the pain of shopping for travel, the pain of going through an airport. By the time that somebody gets to a Marriott check-in desk, they're probably in one of the worst moods they've been in, despite the fact that they're in a really exciting new place. I'm curious, these aren't problems that are created by your direct sector of the industry, but how are you guys thinking about resolving these pain points for your customers who deal with them and come to you with that suffering on their backs?
It's a big question. There's only so many things you can control. And we look at every aspect of the process that the customer has and where can we innovate, where can we improve. And there are certain things we can't control. We can't control the speed sometimes that the luggage will get off the carousel or the queue at customs. But we look and say, well, how can we innovate around that? So perhaps, how could we make queuing kind of fun? So if you can check in, and we're looking at this, and have an app, and I've got a queue for a while, the longest queue someone's taken that month gets a free weekend of Black Tomato. So you can check in. So suddenly, it's like, actually, do you know what? I don't care about this queue because I might get a free weekend. So that's a small thing, but it's about looking at the process and how you can improve it. Some things are within your control, but our biggest things like being available and being there to kind of walk people through.
We've invested a lot in our mobile technology to be able to have this sense of when a guest finally does arrive, or even when they're in the midst of travel. We're investing a lot in being able to chat with your hotel, let them know about your delays, make sure all the things that you wanted in your room will be there. We also allow people to really personalize and put their preferences, so at least we know that you want a particular kind of room, where you want it located, so that when your room is ready, it's the room that you want. So texting and being able to have communication about delays or issues, and also really harnessing the power of those preferences is helping. And then, for luxury, just being greeted by a human with a smile and, kind of like, okay, you're here. Let us take care of your worries. And in the luxury business, we have a lot of incredible associates that can, you can read the kind of really stressful situation that someone's coming off of and figure out how can we immediately get rid of all of that. It's behind you now, you've arrived.
Right, just that instant zapping of your stress. Hopefully you don't get it all back the second that you leave before you get home again, because that's the worst feeling, is when you come home from a vacation needing a vacation.
That's the irony. We're in this experience business, but in giving a great experience, you can give a terrible back-to-earth experience. So post-care services is big for us. We give people back-to-reality kits the day they get back.
Well, before we kick it off to a poll question, I invite you all to get your smartphones ready for a poll question in just one moment. Gillian, I want to know, you have a front seat to all of the most exciting things in technology for the travel world. What are you most looking forward to in 2019?
Nikki's alluding to, I convene a sort of group of early stage travel founders in San Francisco and New York routinely, and we share war stories. But I think one thing that's most relevant to this community is really that it doesn't luxury is not so much about the price point anymore as it is about the community. And there are so many, and this is something that Ian said at the end of his talk as well. There are all these brands that are focused on membership clubs. You know, historically we've had Soho House, but there's also Habitas and Summit and these things that you have to get invited to, and you'd be surprised, and people are making their travel decisions based on being able to go to a new Habitas location, being able to go to one of the Summit retreats. And I think that's something that's going to continue to happen. There's a flight startup called Sky High that is a membership club that enables you to get locked in. You pay a base membership fee, and I believe it's around $200 a month, and then $35 for flights within a certain area, and it's basically standby unlimited. You can only book one in advance at a time. And of course, there have also been Surf Air and a lot of these on the higher end. And I think that trend is something, these sort of membership clubs and communities and subscriptions are a really exciting thing, especially in the luxury segment.
Amazing. Well, let's pull up our polling question. Again, the app is their tyaluxury.app in case you missed it the first time around. We want to know, what is driving your personal travel planning in 2019? Is it R&R, a sense of adventure, cultural or personal enrichment, food, or family time?
Oh, this is cool.
This is an indicator of how stressed you are at this moment, I think. How much you need the R&R.
There's someone for food.
That's surprising.
All right. Cultural or personal enrichment seems to be taking the lead, which Tom will have a product for you early next year. Do you want to talk about it for just 30 seconds really quickly?
Yeah, I wanted to see the results of this before I said anything. Yeah, no, wellness is huge in travel, and transformative is a word that gets used all the time in travel, but does it really deliver on that? And what we've been seeing is, for ages, people have used travel as a vehicle to kind of address questions or frustrations you've had at home. It might be your relationship with work or health or family or love, and we've gone out and identified the most exciting communities or cultures around the world who have a really special relationship with some of these fundamental human building blocks, and have created trips for people to spend time in these communities where they will get exposed to a new way of thinking, whether it's about their health, their diet, their love, their relationship, their business, and then bring it back home. So it's not just going and having a trip and forgetting about it, spending time in these communities, coming back home and paying it forward. And it's called Bring It Back, and we're going to launch it definitely going to launch it now, in the new year. But
Brilliant.
It's an exciting one, and it's one that travel's just a great vehicle to address questions and frustrations, and we're just kind of putting some flesh on that proposition.
Amazing. Guys, thank you so much for being here with us and talking luxury travel.
Thank you.